So, Metroid. Much like Ace Attorney, probably not the first place that comes to mind when you say the word cozy. The world is rife with dangerous inhabitants, extreme temperatures, volatile atmospheres, and a whole lot of sharp objects. How do you manage to even grab a 10-minute nap in a place like that? Well, I wish I had an answer to that question. Just imagine if Metroid had a creative mode. I will say though that a lot of the places I did go with on the list are pretty scarcely populated areas, and for the ones that aren't, I guess I'm just really good at suspension of disbelief? I don't know. Or just clearing the room out before I take a nap. Also, I only ever got maybe 5 or 6 hours into Other M. I really should get back on that. So there's no Other M on this list. Anyway, here we go again with a long-ass intro. How about we just hit the P-switch and dive, y'all? Number 20, Norfair's Purple Room in Metroid 1. So it's probably a little weird that I'm putting this all the way at the bottom, since it is one of the first places in a video game that ever made me feel this way. I've had dreams about being in this place and it being full of pool tables or like an arcade in the mall. But at the end of the day, atmosphere is not Metroid 1's forte. I love Metroid 1 more than most people do, but of all the ways that the franchise has improved over the years, over the decades, atmosphere is one of the biggest ones. And it's never more obvious than when you go back and play the first one. This is the only location from Metroid 1 on the list. There is one from Zero Mission, but we'll get to that. Number 19, the Throne Room in Metroid Prime. Actually, it's the Hall of Elders, thank you very much. Here's where the suspension of disbelief becomes a little bit necessary, because you know as well as I do the first thing that happens when you walk into this room is you get assaulted by 3 Chozo ghosts, you know? So if you want that nap, you're probably gonna have to get here 15 minutes early and bring some super missiles. Or I guess just missiles. Once you're done though, it's open season on the cozy spots. Behind the throne in this elevated platform up here. Or if you prefer sleeping in morph ball form, there's a nice little hidden room down here. Number 18 is this cozy little plant area in the animal room in Metroid Fusion. Why do I sound different right now? Because this was originally supposed to be the cafeteria in Metroid Fusion. But I looked on the map and I don't see a cafeteria. Am I going crazy? Was there never a cafeteria in this game? I don't know. So I had to change it to the animal shelter. That's pretty much all there is to it. Next. Number 17, Torvus Temple in Prime 2. This one suffers a little bit from that overpopulation syndrome, but it's got those sweet Crateria vibes with the clouds and the rain and the grassy atmosphere outside. I always love places that are sort of like preludes to something important, or even just close to something important, which in this case is your first super missiles. I have kind of a deep history with just escaping into this game while watching Karate Kid 3, which I wouldn't be surprised if I mention that again later. Either way, nothing mind-blowing, just a nice little spot here. Number 16, the Plasma and Grapple Beam rooms in Metroid Dread. So I'm kind of cheating a little bit here, putting these two as one, but these two rooms are so similar that I felt it would also be cheating if I gave them 2 separate spots on the list. But damn, man, Metroid Dread, in spite of the Emmys, is one of the most sleepable games in the entire series. I'm also a little biased because this game came into my life just as I was coming off one of the worst illnesses I've ever had. It felt like a second chance at life, and something about that makes this game feel very safe to me. I know that sounds weird. I can't wait to think of more spots, because as of right now, I haven't picked all 20 yet, and this is the only spot from Dread I have on here so far. There will be more. Number 15, Elysia in Metroid Prime 3. As usual, I'm not huge on outside areas, but Elysia has a very unique vibe to it. Anytime you have spots like this that are overlooking a much larger area, in this case, the frickin' sky, the sleepability scale just goes off like a firecracker. I would be hard-pressed to pick a specific spot, though, especially having only played this game one time, and so my memory of it is a little bit foggy. In the old days, and by old days I mean like Super Metroid and before, you didn't really get to go outside very much in Metroid, so places like this and Phendrana Drifts are always a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one. Number 14, the Spring Ball Room in Super Metroid. The Morph Ball does seem like it would be a comfortable way to sleep, but this brings up a lot of questions, and I'm sure the Space Pirates would agree. Nevertheless, this room is so far out of the way and so unpopulated that if there were such a thing as Metroid Hide and Seek, this would probably be a pretty good place to hide. The only problem is you'd never be able to get back out once you were spotted. Still though, there's something about these Chozo statues that make a room feel peaceful, and I imagine they make Samus feel the same way. Number 13, this save point in the Sanctuary in Metroid Prime 2. As always, the overhang effect is massive here, although even I would be reluctant to get too close to the edge. Save points are comfort points in these games, they always are, and they're always a huge relief to see, and just about any save room in this entire trilogy would be a good spot to sleep. Even though Prime 1 is, oh my god, 23 years old now, it still feels weird to me that Metroid lets you just go outside now. Number 12, the alternate entrance to Ridley in Zero Mission. Here it is, Zero Mission. Being that Zero Mission is mostly a retread of Metroid 1, that's why neither of these two games get much rep here, if you know what I mean. This spot does jump out at me though, just because yet again, it's kind of out of the way, and it was a neat little improvement on the first game, because before you think you're just going into Ridley's hideout the same as you would normally, only to find out that the only way in is through this cozy, little-known cavern off to the side. There's not a lot of flat ground here, which sucks, but what are you gonna do? Number 11, outside of Samus' ship on Crateria. This one should probably be higher now that I think about it. So eventually the rain stops, but the clouds stick around, and Crateria becomes a really nice sleeping spot. I never really thought about it until the Ace Attorney video, but I do tend to gravitate toward upstairs rooms, and so if I were asked to be more specific here, I'd probably pick this spot in the top left corner behind the breakable blocks. I would just spawn myself a nice little bed right here and drift away while listening to the distant thunder. Yeah, gotta love distant thunder, I tell ya. Number 10, this spot in Metroid Dread. So yesterday I busted out Metroid Dread because making this list made me want to play it again. I'd already watched like 3 or 4 hours of Metroid Prime and Prime 2 playthroughs, but I got to a point where I was still lacking one more location. I was thinking about putting this room on the list, but then I couldn't help but think I could do better. And then I ran into this place. This frickin' place. I didn't even have to think twice about it. Definitely feeling the Camino vibes here. This is also in the middle of what I always thought was a pretty tough stretch of the game, and the statue here only replenishes ammo, not health. But the view is a welcome reprieve and perhaps a reminder of just how small we are in this world, and maybe that's okay. Number 9, Impact Crater in Metroid Prime. I guess more specifically the hallways leading up to it. One of the big things about liminal spaces is that they are usually transitory spaces, as in the hall between the elevator and your hotel room, or the empty stretch of road between two towns. These places don't have a lot of utility in the world, and sometimes they don't have a lot of utility in the game. They're just places you walk through to get to the next spot. There could be a spot that is mere yards from high traffic and yet never be seen by a vast majority of the players walking past it. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I feel like you could get away with sleeping in a spot like that, because you could still be surrounded by life and yet no one would ever even notice you. This series of hallways leading to the Impact Crater is one such place. Number 8, the Terminal Portal in Agon. This room is the first place where you will be introduced to Dark Aether in Metroid Prime 2, and even to this day, something about that place just kinda creeps me out. But thank goodness they let this place be your first experience with it. This room has a lot of enemies hanging around, mostly flying ones, but if you're not here to do the puzzle, chances are they won't bother you. You probably won't want to do the puzzle because of all the light it would bring into the room anyway. The incline to the warp point is sweet, and I'd probably be shacking up down here in these small enclosures on either side of it. Number 7, the very first room in Metroid Dread. God, did I mention Metroid Dread? One of my favorite things about Dread is the immense level of detail in the backgrounds. These are like 3D backgrounds that you can see from different angles as you walk across the room. When you first arrive here, you have an encounter with Ravenbeak, and then the bridge to the temple gets destroyed. Yet here I am saying this room is cozy. What's kind of cool is that when you return to this room later, the chasm is filled with water. Running water is always a win. Number 6, the Saturn Room in Prime 2 Sanctuary. I know that's not actually what it's called, that's just what I call it now. I'd originally wanted this to be a top 3, mostly because of that whole Karate Kid 3 phase and just playing around in this room endlessly while Daniel and Jessica almost get left at the bottom of Devil's Cauldron. Anyway, I do love the idea of there being like a constant hum in the background. That always helps when you're trying to sleep, and these rooms that go along the outside of the central sphere are at least a little dark on their own. And there are plenty of ways to get around between this elevator here and all the morph ball passages. It just makes you want to start thinking about things like where you would put the bed, or where you would put the refrigerator. And when I'm thinking things like that, I know I got myself a sleep spot. Number 5, the Long Way to Meridia. This is yet another one that I'd anticipated ranking higher on the list until the absolute stunning beauty of the Prime trilogy decided to splooge all over my face. These old games can be cozy, but they can also just be kind of boring looking. And even though Super Metroid was leaps and bounds beyond the first game, they still had a ways to go. I still love this area just because of how out of the way it is, and how it's not the optimal way to reach Meridia. Hell, you can 100% Super Metroid without ever going through here. So because of all that, it's a guarantee you wouldn't see a lot of traffic. Then again, it's a Metroid game, how much traffic do these places get anyway? Number 4, the Elevator Dock in Gavaran. I don't even think I need to explain this one. Just look at all that green. Gavarin was my favorite area in Metroid Dread, and I went back and forth about possible specific rooms to point out to here. But when I saw this room, is this even a room really? I don't know. I was so appalled at my past self for never noticing it that I was just like, no, this is going to be the place right here. The overhead cover is what really saves it, because otherwise it would just be way too bright out here. And as usual, the constant hum of the elevator, people coming and going. Yet again, it's like, well, who's coming and going? But then surely this elevator must be here for a reason. Maybe we can just imagine that we're sleeping here during a time when the elevator actually got some proper use. Number 3, Aegon Temple in Metroid Prime 2. There really aren't enough words for how much I love the atmosphere in Prime 2. Even though it does have that whole dark world thing going on, there's just a certain glowiness to it, and the lore behind the Luminos just makes me want to go watch Dexter Season 5. This gigantic circular room where you fight the Bomb Guardian has enclosed hallways going along the outside, which if you explore them fully, you'll discover that there is a light door on one side and a dark door on the other. There's just something about this room, and especially these hallways, that make me wish that I had more reasons to come back here besides stuff like the Dark Burst. Anyway, number 2, the Great Tree Hall in Metroid Prime 1. Oh my god, this place. This is another one of those gigantic rooms that has so many good spots, I wouldn't even know where to start. This random point where you morph ball, drop through a hole, and find yourself in this little cove overlooking the remains of the building that had the X-ray visor. This little morph ball tunnel here, the location of the artifact itself, and water, so much running water, I don't even know what else to say. I almost feel bad because my pick for number 1 is so similar looking to this area. This place practically could have been number 1 if not for the fact that it's a little bit brighter, but even that's not such a bad thing if you have tree cover, which there's plenty of here. Number 1, the Missile by Samus' ship in Talon Overworld. If I'm being honest here though, this entire area around Samus' ship is just absolutely beautiful. In spite of the rain, or maybe because of it. Maybe the reason I find this spot with the missile so nice is just because of how private it is, but the room with the space jump boots could work just as well for that. Anytime you have an area that's not close to a lot of other areas, like if it's on the very edge of a map, that always feels more cozy to me. And I'm sure it's not just me, given how many hotels spring up on beaches on the east and west coast. At this point, you're almost better off chilling in Omaha, Nebraska. But anyway, there I go again. Save this for the 10 recurring thoughts you could do without, Timothy. Bimothy, whatever your name is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure most people would agree about this place, though. This place was one of the first 3D environments we saw in a Metroid game, so I'm not surprised they went all in here. And with that, we have 20 places I would sleep in Metroid. How about that? If I do another one of these, I imagine it would be either Mario Universe or Xenoblade. I think I listed a few ideas at the end of my 20 places I would sleep in Zelda video, which I need to put on the playlist, by the way. Anyway, likes and comments are always appreciated, and I will catch you here on the next one. TTFN!